sometimes connecting economic figures and realities on the ground can be troubling. President Muhammadu Buhari has presented a record 16.39 trillion naira spending plan for the 2022 budget, which he called Budget of Economic Growth and Sustainability. But experts are not convinced of the growth in the economy due to high debts and low incomes in the country. Meanwhile, Senate President Ahmed Lawal has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to scale down borrowing and seek other sources of funding the budget. Today, the last time we're said to be owing 35 trillion naira.
It's growing. It's growing. At the end of the year, it certainly will exceed that figure. And from even the budget that the president read, he's already told us that more than 5 trillion of this 16.39 trillion will be sourced through loans. So we already have this plan to finance this budget with more borrowings. And I think that for the first time, the Senate President mustered the courage to say, Mr. President,
Scale down.
Scale down.
Nigerians have been telling him that, look,
you know,
this thing
has been, we transited the, what do you call that thing?
Saraki.
No, as in the
Recession.
economic depression.
Recession.
Because of the recession, because of the budget we collected.
Because of the loans.
Finance.
Because of the loans.
I mean, the loans, sorry.
There are implications for consistent borrowing. You have to service your debt. And how do you service your debt? How do you find the money? It's either you push yourself to even borrow money to service your debt, or you dip your hands into your foreign reserves to pay for those debts, because the debts are denominated in foreign currency. You are not going to pay them with the naira, you know. So right now, we keep borrowing to fund infrastructure projects, but people are saying, look, there are other ideas by which we can deliver infrastructure projects. How about getting the private sector involved? BOT, for example, build, operate, and transfer.
Yes.
That will save you.
Lots of funds.
Yes, that will save you having to go. But government wants to award contracts at every turn. It's not in all cases that you must award contracts. Get the private sector involved. If the economic climate, the business environment is conducive enough, investors will come in. They will come in, get involved, and our economy will improve. But right now, that's not what we are seeing. Foreign direct investment is going down rapidly. It's going down rapidly.
Paul, when you look at this budget, and when you go into the detail and you look at the amount we are going to use to service debts, you discover that we might not be able to even raise half of the money for that budget.
Honestly, it's scary. Ordinarily, borrowing will not have been a problem. I mean, if you are borrowing to fund capital projects, but the problem we are having is we are using 72, I think almost 80% of our revenue to service debt. And our revenue generation capacity is very, very low. So people are now talking about alternatives. What about cutting down the wastages in our in the system? What about even sale of unproductive assets we have? You know, what about
those assets that are rotting away?
Exactly.
In
what
Lagos,
about
Abuja?
You got it? What about improving upon our ability to generate taxes? You know, all of this. What about the BOT? BKO spoke about the build, operate, and build, operate, transfer strategy that we can adopt. So we have this serious problem. We can't sustain this. We can't sustain it.
Okay, I have my first caller. Kunle is calling us from Kaduna State. Thank you for joining us, Kunle.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Kunle.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ford and Mr. Vitoju.
Good afternoon.
All right, go ahead, please.
Mr. Vitoju, I'll also be happy the day I meet with you and I sit on the same table with you, like we stand together. You are a very wonderful person, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to contribute on the former topic about youth participation. And I think we should just stop stigmatizing ourselves in Nigeria. Honestly speaking, we cannot be saying over and over without looking at the youth cause. I want to ask you a question. How many youth do we find in ministry at age of 40 that are directors? Or we just want to bring them from private sector because we are developing how we are doing this, we want to go and become president. If there is a measure, if there is a rule, there is a regulation that a youth at age of 21, you are going to be in ministry, working for government, by the time you spend like 14, 15 years, gather that such experience, then you are fit to become Nigeria president. Nigeria president is not like local government chairman. Either we like it or not, all over the nation now, Lagos, everywhere, that are chairman, but they can't be president. President of Nigeria is not an easy task. That is why we still have all these old people coming back to come and be president. So I want us to look at something drastic and not that youth. As far as I'm concerned, Nigeria president is more complex than you just saying youth should come and do. Let's start from ministry. So I want to be okay. I'm like early 40 now to become Nigeria president. I will now sit here. We have 60, 70, 80 that are even dyed their head at the ministry to come and become a director. So it's not going to be easy like that. That is my own perspective. And also on borrowing, I don't know what we want government to do. We are not making money. We are not paying tax. Our revenue base are not expanding. And we said government should not borrow money. And to me, I don't know how we're going to do it. If we are to be fair to this government, I think borrowing is the way. And borrowing, to me, is not the problem. But what are we borrowing upon?
Exactly.
Thank you. That's it.
This is what we always hear, that borrowing is not a problem. What people fail to realize is, in our own case, we don't have enough revenue to repay these debts. We don't have enough. All of the revenue projections that we do are never met. I've seen what the federal government says, that it expects the total federally collectible revenues to be 17.7 trillion in 2022. 17.7 trillion. We are watching to see whether those 63 revenue generating agencies or the federal government, whether they can come up with this sum. The reason some of us preach against relentless borrowing is because you must tie debt ratio to revenue ratio. Because where are you going to get the money? You may then need to borrow money again to pay your debts, or go and take from the foreign reserve. So it should not be debt to GDP ratio. Debt to GDP ratio in the case of Nigeria is deceptive. It should be debt to revenue ratio. Do you have the capacity to repay? The revenue will tell you if you have the capacity to repay. If you are servicing debt with more than 90% of generated revenue, the signals are there that, look, this is not a good thing. But Nigerians should know that at a point we have to stop. Those encouraging government to continue to borrow without thinking that at a point you've got to stop. I don't know how they are thinking, but I've had Akinwumi of ADB warning us that we should not get into another debt pit. I've had Okonjo Iweala say the same thing. I've had even former CBN governors say the same thing. Are we going to say all of those people don't know what they are doing?
But the Minister of Finance is saying we will continue to borrow.
So it's dependent on the National Assembly. Now that the Senate President, at least when the Senate President said that thing, it's for a reason. His conscience must have told him that, look, at a point we have to stop this. When he told the president that, you got to look at other sources. If the National Assembly says, Mr. President, we can't approve this payment, this request, they will have to look inwards. Remember when the Senate stopped the Kaduna State Governor, El-Rufai, from taking that loan when, what's his name? Shehu Sani championed that.
Yes.
They couldn't take it.
Blocked it.
They couldn't take. So the finance minister can say, we need to take this loan. We need to take this loan. But if the National Assembly says no, and I've seen some members of the National Assembly complain bitterly.
Yes.
That is the leadership that is encouraging this. Every time you take that loan, you are postponing the evil day for the oncoming generation.
Yes,
look at Kaduna now. Look at Ogun State. Why are they unable to do roads? Because previous administrations were taking loans, were taking bonds and all that. Now there is something called irrevocable standing order. As you collect your own share of the distributable revenue from the center,
just zap it.
They take
no story.
So you see, so you think that you pay from source. So you have very little left to sink boreholes. You have very little left to sink boreholes, to provide the infrastructure. You are now limited to simply paying salaries and doing just a few roads here and there. At the end of the day, you will fail as a government. So those doing it, it is the oncoming regimes that will suffer.
Exactly.
Somebody told me that even in Bayelsa, that the current administration is suffering that now. Because the previous administration was taking loans anyhow. It has implications. Every time you take loans, you must remember that you must pay back. And so we must bear that in mind.
I have Abubakar from Kaduna State. Thank you for joining us, Abubakar.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, please, Abubakar.
Yes, sir. I want to comment on this budget of trillions. You see, it's a good omen, we know, and it's like they want to make something good. But my problem is this loan, they are saying they want to take it to at least complete the gap or to augment the deficit in the budget. What about the money some people stole? Because we have seen them, NIA, where we have seen dollars they remove. Where is those dollars? We have seen those people that this EFCC, I said they have stolen billions of naira. Where are all those money? Look at what they have stolen now in this pension fund. Where are all those money? Why?
Thank you. When you hear all this money, they're not enough to. They're not like what we are talking about.
Ideally, you see, countries of the world in the post-COVID era, they are scaling down their budgets.
Yes.
Their expectations, they are narrowing their expectations. In our own case, we want it to be higher.
Why?
Just tell me, all the countries, they are based on current realities that COVID-19 has damaged business. Yes. So they are scaling down. The size of the budget, they are scaling it down to reality.
It's not the amount that matters.
We just want it to continue to be
we want
high.
it to come out. Did we record 50% implementation in the last one?
50% collection of revenue. Let's say, did we achieve 100% collection of projected revenue? That's a very easy question to answer. So before you have to realize that COVID has damaged businesses, economies are not doing. Yes, you know, even France went into recession now. Different countries. So in the present realities, you can't be coming up with humongous budget. You must work according to the reality on ground. I would have expected that this year's budget will be in the region of maybe 10 billion, for example. You know.
And it
that way, our expectations will match the realities on the ground.
Doesn't have to be trillion.
16.39 trillion.
And then transparency. There must be transparency. How the details of the spending, you know, we sometimes you don't even know how this the details of how they are spent. And there are also some funny figures you tend to get in the budget. For example, I got a report of Serap asking the president to cut down the 26 billion naira in this current. That's this budget. That budget is for just building the presidential wing of the medical center, travels and meals and all of that. So they are even asking that, look, Mr. President, cut this down. Cut this down. So we have to be very, very careful what we do,
Okay, we hope Mr. Nnemeka Obiareri will join us. My producer is still trying to work on it to look at the implication of the budget as presented by Mr. President to the National Assembly last week. So ultimately, when you start seeing those items, you discover that some items were embedded in it last year, 2 years ago. We still have the same thing here.
Yes,
furniture, photocopier,
yes.
The same thing. That's
I don't see any reason for us to be buying all those exotic vehicles every year. Normally, if I had my own vehicle, I would expect, and it came brand new, I would expect that I'll be able to use it for 3 years at least before start having problems.
First 4 years.
So when you start seeing
Brand new.
Money spent, money budgeted for photocopier, budgeted for generators, budgeted for SUVs and the rest of them, you just ask yourself what's going on. We need to. One of the criticisms that people have come up with about our leaders is that they are not prepared to live in consonance with the present day realities. People are going through.
Don't want to cut costs.
Yes, in our country. Look at National Assembly, for example. People have said, look, why don't we do something? We ought to have a unicameral legislator. It's been done in Senegal, for example. People will say, oh, of course, you can't compare Senegal to Nigeria. Well, that's a country trying to solve a problem. The cost of maintaining bureaucracy in Nigeria is extremely high. And it's not sustainable. God will spare our lives. Many years down the line, we will tell this story. It's not sustainable. The way we are going, some of these things that we are seeing are simply not sustainable. I cannot be extremely optimistic to see the truth and not say it. It's not sustainable. We are too wasteful. We are too extravagant beyond the resources that we have. We need to focus on energizing the SMEs, energizing the real sector, because the real sector is the engine of growth for any country. What we are reading about is not cheering. We are hearing that even some of them are scrapping some production lines because of lack of access to forex. Forex is extremely difficult to access. Someone was telling me that he needed to import. That right now it is at 600 naira to $1 that they actually get some of their goods from China, because they are not prepared to wait. So I don't know how businesses will survive in our country with that exchange rate at the level that it is. Because how many people can access the official window?
In this National Assembly, we have to commend this National Assembly and Mr. President. Now, this is October, they presented the budget, and hopefully by December, the National Assembly would have finished working on it, and we are back to the January cycle. I think the last 2 years now. Now, what I'm saying is that I expected at any given time the National Assembly members to be questioning the implementation of the previous budget before moving on.
Exactly. I think they've started doing that. I just hope that they'll be that courageous, you know. Like we
The
mentioned.
Senate President talked about it.
Yes, we mentioned what the Senate President said concerning scaling down our borrowings. I remember that this same Senate President a few months ago said we have to be, you know, the money it was the President was asking for the other time that translated into how much in Naira, I think 3.2 trillion Naira, you know. The Senate President was saying, okay, it's a burden. Borrowing is a burden. He said it's a burden we have to bear. But now he has changed. He's singing another tune now, which is good because he has seen the reality. I hope that
some of his members are complaining even publicly.
Of course.
Yes.
So you have to question, number one, why were you not able to meet up with this? I mean, why was the budget was not able to perform at least beyond the level it has performed? How did you spend the money? Give us details of your spend. Let us even know what to spend money on. You understand? How do you plug the wastages? And all of these are the questions people should be asking.
All of those revenue agencies that are refusing
exactly
to even, some of them are deliberately refusing to remit. The problem is a big problem.
They ask you, why are heads not rolling?
That's fraudulent.
Why are heads not rolling? Who are the people heading these agencies?
Do you know that some of those revenue generating agencies are even hiding revenue? The National Assembly has even described that they hide revenue. And they go ahead without permission to spend even from the revenue that they have been able to source. You've got to get appropriation, get the permission to spend. You have no right to simply because you generate so amount of money, then spend the money the way you like. Your budget, some of them even spend above
their budget.
Their threshold.
I have Bob from Plateau State. Thank you for staying with us, Bob.
Yeah, good afternoon, my brother. How are you?
Good afternoon, Bob. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Let me first of all appreciate Brother Jide.
Thank you.
Brother Jide, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, concerning the issue of this project something, I think to me, is it not high time we start cultivating habit of is it not high time we start cultivating habit of giving and not borrowing? It's high time we should start cultivating the habit of being a giver and not a taker, or being a giver and not a borrower.
You can't give what you don't have.
We should develop that attitude. So develop attitude of a giver and not a borrower.
We used to give, but now we can't afford to be that Father Christmas. We don't have.
We were Father Christmas to our neighbors and other
times have changed.
All those frontline states. Nigeria spends so much on them. You know, it's unfortunate now that
we are the borrowers.
I saw some time ago the VP wrote a letter to the National Assembly asking for a loan of $1.5 billion, and I was $1.5 billion. That's not a lot of money, but we still have to go get it from somewhere. You know, it's just. I think too that this coming year, the National Assembly needs to work harder on those revenue agencies. They can do much better than they are doing. A lot of them are greedy. They are sabotaging the system.
To hold them.
Yes, so they need to do a lot more work. Some agencies have illegally opened bank accounts, bypassing the Treasury single account. The idea of the Treasury single account is to make sure that revenue collected on behalf of government goes to one account managed by the central bank. But these guys are opening accounts, separate accounts. Dozens of accounts were discovered by the ICPC. So we need to pay greater attention to them because they can do much better than they are doing. If we can block some of the avenues through which the resources are leaking, I'm confident that we can do much better than this. We'll be able to free up some funds, at least to do some of our projects, instead of simply borrowing all over the day and passing the payments to generations unborn.
So,
I might just add that the National Assembly should not just be seen as a dog that barks and can't bite. Because we've seen situations where National Assembly will invite people, you understand, to come and explain what is happening in their ministry or their agency, and they will just give an excuse. And then there is no...
They have something to hide.
They have something to hide, and they will not come, and nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. I think the National Assembly...
They will shoot threats and we will see that.
Exactly. It should be beyond, there should be a way that the National Assembly can compel people to come.
No, they can. They can issue an arrest.
Yes, they can do a bench warrant. Yes. And why is it not happening? How many times have you seen that happen? What exactly is happening?
They can order the IG to bring someone.
Now the question, will the IG obey?
Of course.
No, so it depends on.
Of course.
It depends. Yes, it should.
I've seen them issue it to a minister, and the minister to hurriedly come.
But this is
during
not,
the Jonathan era.
Yes, I know, but this is not something that happens.
The Minister of Transport.
But this is not what we see happen all the time. Maybe once in a while it does. You understand? The National Assembly should
let them use the powers that they have now. If you have the power, remember the other day, our friend from Borno South, Senator Ndume, was saying that we have this power. We have this power. Our children will ask us. You know, the powers are there. Use it. If you are not yourself compromised, then you should be able to descend heavily on heads of government agencies that you order to show up and fail to show up. Maybe those ones too are staying away because they know that they will ask them for something. You understand? Because this is where Nigeria...
I just want our institutions to be very strong. I mean, there shouldn't be big men who can just defy national... Because when you defy a National Assembly, you are defying Nigerians. You are defying the entire nation.
Okay.
The National Assembly is peopled by our representatives. So it's Nigerians that are speaking, that are inviting you. If National Assembly invites you, it's Nigeria that's inviting you.
Yes.
You can't be defying National Assembly. You can't.
All right.